I mean, look, it's kind of cute.
Yeah, it is certainly thinking deeply.
AGI is here. Hey folks, welcome back to the Feature Crew. So today we're going to be testing o1 with Cursor. So previously we had tested Cursor and o1 separately. We're very impressed with both of them. So now we're going to go ahead and test them together to see how it works. So we're excited because o1-mini and preview both had some great reasoning capacity. So we're going to see if that helps when we go to code. So we're immediately going to dive in. Jacob, anything to add as I get
No,
everything
just I can start explaining what we're going to build here. If you checked out our cursor video or our o1 coding video, we had it build the same app, and the app is called Serverville, and it's based on Farmville, but you're building a server farm, very GPU and AI themed. And so we'll see, just so that you all can compare across different models and different experiences, we'll see how Cursor with o1 does with the same, very similar prompt.
Absolutely. So given o1 is more of a reasoning model, we've changed the prompt slightly, and we're starting to try and give it a few different open-ended things that hopefully allow it to infer and think a bit more. So for example, we say, feel free to introduce other mechanics that increase engagement and make it more enjoyable. And the thinking here is that as you give it this, it will kind of do the inference steps and actually say, oh, what increases engagement? What makes it more enjoyable? So keeping it open like this, it'll be very interesting to see how it actually infers and tries to build something. So we're starting completely from scratch. And you can check out other videos like Cursor, and we tried doing o1 in ChatGPT. So have a look at those. So we're going to go ahead and use our limited o1-mini requests. So we haven't really tried this. So you'll be also seeing actual reactions as we go. So we're also using the composer feature. So from what I remember, there is a chat pane. I think you click over here to open up the chat pane, and a composer feature. The composer seemed a little bit more agentic, so we're starting with that. And it uses, from what I understand, custom models. So even if we added an API key, we would only have some o1-mini requests. But right away, we can see...
Meaning that it can create multiple files, do multiple things just based on one request from us.
Exactly. So we can see it already came back and said, let's start by building the basic structure for Serverville. We'll create a responsive full-screen web client using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It will include an isometric grid to represent server racks, a heads-up display, and basic styling. So definitely respond to the correct request. We've purposely always tried to give the phrasing isometric because a lot of models mess up with that. So what we're interested to see is, as we get like smarter models, does it get better at interpreting how to do that request? And everything here looks fine. It even made a bit of a substructure, which is honestly kind of cool. Most of the time, even in the agentic world, they just make files, in the root directory. But if you've done any like big production coding, we have tons of substructures. So it's cool to see it's like, even though it's simple, it's starting to recognize how to do that. And it also created it by itself. Like that's already pretty awesome. It gives us a few examples and tells us kind of what each thing is. All looks pretty simple to me. And then I think we go ahead and we can approve all these, but let's have a look at the next steps. So the current setup includes a placeholder for the grid. You can create an isometric grid image or use CSS to generate one. It even tells us use a library like Isomer. Pretty good, actually. Good, like, it's actually kind of understanding its limitations, and it's saying, hey, like, why don't you go ahead and use this? So actually a pretty good response so far. So first of all, I'm going to go accept this, and we'll go ahead and look at what it made, and then we can kind of iterate from there. Alright, so we just opened up what it created, the kind of root HTML file, and let's see, does it actually work? Not enough money. Okay. Upgrade power. Not enough money. And obviously we can't upgrade cooling.
We want to quickly give ourselves some money.
Yeah, you're right. We won't use one of our precious.
Yeah, certainly not.
Let's give ourselves $1,000 to start. Let's see if that works. Okay, buy GPU. GPU purchased.
Oh, it's making money though.
It's making money.
Can't see it. And to be fair, it did say it had the placeholder, so I think maybe that's where we start iterating. I'm really interested to see if o1 will be able to. I think in our test it was able to get some sort of isometric placeholder on its own. So
yeah.
We'll see. I guess we have to iterate a little bit in Cursor Composer. There might be some prompting that's telling Composer to try to take a manageable chunk of a big prompt and only do that in the first pass, and then propose next steps to achieve the whole specification of the prompt.
Absolutely. And the other things seem to work. So it's obviously put a little bit of logic, as we typically expect with at least this level of model now. So let's start iterating from there. Awesome. So we're going to, first of all, as Jakob just mentioned, focus on building a visualization for the isometric grid. We're giving it, specifically saying, use a simple SVG cube and make sure it actually visualizes both the GPUs and power and cooling, and also adding something about showing the impact of what power and cooling is doing. So we're trying to scope each little chunk down, because the composer custom or fine-tuned model, we suspect, is probably trying not to do a ton of reasoning in one go. So let's see how this goes. At least it's thinking this time. I think last time it barely thought, and now it's like,
It's considering this one for sure.
It's cool to see it kind of load in like that. Kind of similar to Canvas, actually. Like, it's obviously done something in the background, and now it's like laying it on top. So it's expanded the HUD, added styles for server racks and indicators, updated the HUD, implemented functions, create and render server racks within the isometric group, updated the game state to manage server racks and indicators, enhanced Hydra, update reflex, status display. Okay, status display, server rack, indicators. Again, this is kind of awesome. I'm scrolling through event listeners. Again, kind of impressed. This is kind of why we wanted to test this, because o1 has a lot more grunt. So giving it, we might be cutting the video, but that took about like a minute, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. But it actually went and thought about it, and then obviously it's come back with, it could just be like trash, like when we actually try and play it again. But it's clearly had a good think about like, hey, like what does this request actually mean? It's added a lot. And this is kind of what will be exciting in the future, where, I couldn't have typed all this in a minute. So actually waiting for a minute for a more high quality response is exactly what these class of models should be doing. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to try and click accept all. Seems to have worked, seems to have saved. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Okay, it looks like they have at least some representation. I'm going to go ahead and buy
the little
GPU.
servers.
Oh, isn't that cool? That's actually kind of cool. I know they're clickable, but they don't really do anything. Power level 1, cooling level 1. I'm going to see if I buy another GPU. Interesting. If I upgrade power. Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of like the power and I guess cooling is going to light up the other button. Look, it's kind of cute. Obviously, this is not what we exactly meant. We wanted it to be, and we can iterate with it. We can say, each time you buy a new GPU, make a different square. But the fact that it's figured that out, and it's figured out to put in the little colors, is kind of cool. Obviously, nothing broke. It did what it asked to add in power and cooling, and it's got all the events to kind of hook it up. So, hey, kind of awesome.
I think so too. I agreed. I like kind of how it did the little lights on the server rack as display. And I'm definitely interested to see if we prompt it, like, again, to really hone in on the visual that we want, what we can get out of it. I think one thing that'll be important is asking, like Dylan was kind of getting at, the individual management of GPUs, or of server racks, right? So you can upgrade individual server racks and build out your farm. It also didn't seem to quite understand the isometric piece, so we can also remind it about that.
Let's do it. I'm going to use the classic, think deeply about this. Cool. So we just typed in a prompt where, again, focusing on just making it isometric and changing it so that, although it's really cool to see the visualization, we want it to be individual. We've used a keyword that hopefully helps, which is you say, think deeply about this. So that probably increases how long it thinks. But we want to see how good it is when you continue to probe it on a single problem. Often with a lot of models, you'll say, oh, like it's great, like fixing a lot of things or finding bugs. But I want to see if with better reason is, if you're like, hey, actually think about this, focus on this, doesn't improve. Because sometimes we reach a limit with some of these models where you keep asking the same thing. It's like, I don't really know. So let's see how o1-mini does. We can also switch to preview. I don't know if we have capacity for o1 preview in Composer, but worth a shot. For now, we did find like mini was pretty good compared to preview. Check out our previous video. It is thinking deeply.
Yeah, it is certainly thinking deeply.
Here we go. So back to updating. I do like how Composer comes back like this. Like, it's really cool to see it as almost like a here's what changed, or like an executive summary. That's awesome. And of course, we get to see it like visually, like a bit of a diff of what it's actually doing. Looks like it was diffing a lot, so I'm just going to let it finish off there. Defines appearance of each GPU with a skew and rotation to achieve isometric 3D effect. That is what we wanted. So if this actually works, fantastic. Yeah, at a very high level. It's kind of cool how it's planned ahead. It's giving us some next steps, so I'll bring it up. Let's see how we're going. Not good. By GPU. Oh, okay. Whoa, GPU. Wow. Okay.
Wait, okay. It might be adding GPUs to racks.
That's exactly what it is. Interesting. I think that's exactly what it is. So it has, taken the isometric view. We wanted it to be isometric of this must be like maybe the data centers. Maybe that's why it's saying the power is upgraded on the data centers themselves or the racks themselves. Okay. Not enough money. Okay. And it looks like you can now upgrade these GPUs.
They can only have one GPU per rack. That's pretty weak.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Wait,
I
I'm
wonder
gonna
how
try and
we
get
get to the end.
exactly. I want to get a sixth, and then I wonder, does it start going to the next rack, or is it going to try and just put it in the middle of nowhere? It just doesn't visualize at all.
Oh, it's just over.
I mean, look, at the very least,
AGI is here, guys.
AGI is here. It kind of understood what to do. It looks like we're really making money now, though. That is good. But let's go ahead and now give it a bit more of a broad thing. So, look, o1, it's not AGI, right? Like, the whole thing of like, oh, is it amazing? It's going to continue to get fine-tuned. It's going to continue to get better. Mm-hmm. To be fair, we're giving it still very broad prompts. However, we did say ask clarifying questions. And again, in o1's defense, this could be the custom model that Cursor is using. Like, their composer does have like a fine-tuned model from what I understand. But regardless, clearly it's still this bit of a friction of we're trying to give it this thing, like a very broad prompt, and it's not quite getting there, even when we specifically say, hey, think about this, and we want it to look like this. It's kind of, in a way, almost like a monkey paw thing where, yeah, it actually did make something isometric, but not really what we wanted. Like, we want it to think about, oh, they wanted a Farmville thing, so everything, it should be an isometric grid. And it said, hey, maybe you can go do it. So when it tried to do it itself, it's a lot more limited.
Yeah, just a little. I was disappointed with its. Like, it's interesting that it put us like a GPU in a server rack, but it wasn't like doing the intuitive thing of like, okay, you could have multiple GPUs in a server rack. So it like almost it was like half impressive, but then it didn't make the full reasoning leap that I kind of wanted it to. It also was, it's like interesting because it also totally, like, we tried to prompt it in a bit of a different direction. Like Dylan was saying, to get the full screen isometric thing, we tried multiple times, and it kind of like chose its own path. It's interesting to see like how the reasoning step and its ability to like fix mistakes that OpenAI is very excited about. Maybe it means sometimes it actually starts to like kind of deviate away, like unalign itself because it's exploring new paths.
Yeah, interesting point. So based on the next steps, let's go ahead and also try and implement a few of these, because the interaction, improving isometric rendering, all seems good. Great. So let's come back again. Basically just saying like, hey, like I heard what you said. Let's go ahead and do it. So what it's saying is not incorrect, right? And it's actually doing pretty well. I think this speaks to, again, what we've said a lot on this channel, how fast things are improving. Because a year ago, this would have been like absolutely mind-blowing. But it's really, when you look at the incremental progress, how impressive it is. Between like when we did a test, 2 or 3 weeks ago, this is like a more impressive reasoner. I love how it's giving you a bit of an explanation of what it's done. You can imagine a future where this goes back for like an hour and it comes back with a full app and it said, hey, here's what I've done. But right now it's still very much at the point of it's kind of improving, but it's not really a massive step change compared to like the 4.0 class models, the 3.5 Sonnet, stuff like that. So I'm going to accept these and we can see how it did. Okay, so it has indeed improved the UX, and if you see, it's very subtle. They've put a little bit of an animation on these. So now it's going to give you a little bit of a pop-up. It still has this. You can hover. I mean, this is actually kind of cool, being able to hover and get a visualization of what each GPU is doing. Let's upgrade power. But I think you'll notice that the money down here has been removed. So now I don't actually know how much money I have. But I guess we can upgrade to level 2. Income 15 per second, 10 per second. So, like I just said, it is incrementally improving, but this is not a step change beyond what we just had, like 4.0 and stuff like that. Maybe you could argue, if we really dived in and tried to compare them side by side, it'd be interesting to see, what the difference would be. I wonder if we'll do that in the future. But yeah, this is kind of as expected. Still a bit of a subjective increase, but not a massive step change.
Yeah. I think, it's interesting to see in some ways the combination of cursor and O1 is like better, but in some ways, like, we got some more impressive results out of cursor and O1 on their own, and check out those videos to see what they were able to do on their own. And so it's like maybe there needs to be some time for, I think Dylan had mentioned there was a fine-tuned model. They might have a fine-tuned version of 4.0, but I doubt they've had time to fine-tune a version of O1. So maybe it's like still early days, and the cursor team needs to do some work to integrate this better, because like, you would hope that you would be leveraging O1's reasoning capability with just sort of this additional prompting and whatever framework is here to like create multiple files and let it take multiple steps. But unfortunately, it seems like those benefits aren't compounding in the way we hoped.
Yep. And you're actually right. Like when we were using O1 in ChatGPT and copying over, I think we were getting better results, honestly. Like it sometimes went down a path that was radically different, had actually taken our feedback and made something very impressive. Whereas right now we're still very much this is nowhere close to being a game, right? Like it's just very basic background. Even when I said, hey, improve the background, like this is it's added a little bit of color, and it's actually kind of impressive, these visualizations. But again, it's not much different to like asking 4.0, but it takes like more than a minute to get this result, and that's not really like this huge compounding change. So an O1 by themselves, both pretty interesting. Maybe they haven't fully gotten all the benefits together. It's just a very small addition as opposed to like a compounding benefit. And not to like shortchange anything, the amount of increase over the last like just 6 months is insane, right? Think to the start of this year versus now, and we're like, wow.
Yeah. So I think we're excited to see maybe some updates, just like to see the integration of O1 and cursor mature over time, and maybe as like just generally engineers figure out how to prompt better with O1, that these sorts of products improve, and we'll probably retest it at some point. We had a couple tests planned that I think we can come back to. But yeah, we learned a good amount from building of Serverville here. So I think like excited to see the future. Right now, a little bit disappointed, but yeah, definitely check out our other videos where we test O1 and cursor separately and compare O1-mini and O1 preview, just to kind of get a lay of the land for their coding ability in general. And yeah, let us know what you think. I'm very curious to hear comments and like more anecdotes for experiences with O1 and cursor and both of those products separately. So yeah, definitely let us know.
Please. We've had some great comments, and we are listening to the feedback and using that. Like that's part of the reason we're making this video. So thank you so much for listening, folks, and we will catch you again soon.